Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your weekly DMV sports update. And I am your host, CWall, checking in as I love to do each and every single Thursday to give you the latest and greatest information on the hot topics in DMV sports. We don't have a lot of time to hang out, but sometimes we make it a long time when we just want to hang out and talk all of the hot topics for real. You all hot topics for this week because we have time. This is where we want to spend the time. Wizards and Commanders. Washington Wizards, Washington Commanders. If you're just tuned in, love button, share the show, share the link, drop a fire emoji in the chat because definitely want to dig into the Wizards. And don't we always dig into the Commanders? Because even though we have a live discussion and a whole show dedicated to the Washington Commanders, there's just not enough time to really talk about the Washington Commanders. So, Wizards fans, how are you? I see Cameron Mingo has checked in. I see Lamar Bland has checked in as well. Definitely drop a line in the chat so I can acknowledge you. Wizards fans, the Wizards got a win. The Wizards got a win. Hello? Anybody glad about it? We're going to act like we are in church. John Adams has to be happy about it. The Wizards got a win. Now, I posted something on my page. This is full disclosure. Because this is that time of year where everything is going on. It's the NBA, it's the NFL, it's hockey, you name it, it's all happening. And I was sitting there and I said, oh, at some point, I have to go to a Wizards game. I have an obligation. And while we're talking about that, have you all bookmarked on sportsillustrated.com Inside the Wizards? Are you following Inside the Wizards on Facebook and on Twitter? Tons of content coming out from that site. So make sure you have it bookmarked. Make sure you're following the Facebook and Twitter pages so that you're not missing any articles. I have an amazing group of writers. Many of them you know. Some are newcomers and they're powerhouses already in the industry. So shout out to all of them and hope you all are locked into that page. I was doing something for Inside the Wizards, and I said, oh, I have to go to a Wizards game, everybody. Okay. So I will be at a Wizards game soon, actually. So I'll be there. I just, it really dawned on me. It's so much with the Commanders and being at practice and games that I kind of not, writing articles, yes, but had not been in the building. So I will for sure soon be in the building for the Wizards. Absolutely. Throughout this month and continuing on through the NBA season. But the Wizards got their second win of the season at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte. And I want to tell you, there's some things to talk about with that second Wizards win. There's a couple of things I want to mention that I think are important. Everybody was healthy. Everybody, they're there. I mean, they're already nicked up, right? Kind of hard to game plan, kind of hard to figure things out when you don't have 100% of your roster ready to go. The roster was ready to go. Let's mention that, right? Very important point. I've been wanting to see Daniel Gafford be who I know he can be defensively, and he was absolutely that in that win. Absolutely. I said, now there you go, Gaff. That's the landlord right there. Definitely, again, been dealing with some ankle injuries. Super impressed by Daniel Gafford. I'm going to tell you who else impressed me. The bench. I said, now would you look at this? And here's what I think is very important, a very important point, because you all know if I'm watching the games, if I'm truly listening to the pressers, watching the behaviors, just on Monday, when the Wizards went down, lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, Kyle Kuzma made a comment and he said, nobody said this was going to be easy. Absolutely right. The season is very long. Very long. And you also have to endure from a body, just health perspective, the very long and arduous NBA season. Kyle Kuzma said that. And I said, you know what? Kuz is right. Nobody ever said this was going to be easy. It's always been said. Everybody knows this is a rebuild season. It's going to look bad. And I've said that to you all. And if you're just tuning in, you're watching from the Culture from the Couch series, the weekly DMV Sports Update. I'm your host, CWall. We're going in depth right now about the Wizards and their win against the Charlotte Hornets. We'll be soon, very soon, getting into the Washington Commanders, because I definitely have something I want to share with you all. This was not going to be a beautiful season. I've said that. Everybody should know this. So I see all of everybody, it's like people are already just losing it, right? Just losing it. And I'm like, are people watching my show? Because I have said all of the signs are there. This is going to be a rough watch. This is going to be a tough moment. This is going to be something that you might not want to watch. You may not want to spend all of your money on this one. Might want to save your Christmas money on something else. Might want to go see the Capitals instead. Might be like that a lot. But let me tell you, I told everyone, I said, this is a wait and see. Let's just watch it. The leadership has spoken. Yet it seems like the fan base is still wanting something spectacular to happen. You should know now. I tried to tell you and help you that the spectacular is probably not going to transpire. But let me say this, because they did have a solid preseason. They did. But now it's the real season. Things get different. But against the Hornets, I want to tell you all something. I said, there it is. There it is. Now, it was against the Charlotte Hornets, but still, this is a very important point. That's who they can be. That right there. Now, against the Charlotte Hornets, I mean, that's not going to always get you a W, even when you're playing like that. But you had your starting lineup in full force. Daniel Gafford defensively was trying to make his stamp and make his mark and trying to be a respected center in the league. And just, hey, I matter. I'm here. I'm here to protect this paint. And the bench was incredible. Very impressive. Now, I've seen some toughness now. I've definitely said to myself, especially against the Miami Heat game, drop in the chat if you watched when the Wizards played the Miami Heat. Let's be very clear about something. I had to laugh to myself. Actually, I didn't laugh to myself. I laughed out loud because I watched the young unit. I watched them come in and play tough. So tough that Eric Spoelstra had to bring his starters back in. He said, oh, wait a second. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I thought the game was over. Johnny Davis, Ryan Rollins, Eugene Omoruyi, Anthony Gill, they came in and they were playing like the game wasn't over. Very aggressive. Grit. Not afraid at all. And against the Hornets last night, you really saw, oh, that's who they could be. If you missed that game, here's what I would like to encourage you to do, because you all know I'm always about education, always about you all knowing what's really up. And I'm going to tell you the truth. And in this one, I'm going to tell you the truth again. If you missed that game, go and watch it. Go and watch it, because that is an opportunity to see, oh, that's who they could be. We've been saying all since preseason and so far all this season long, shooting wasn't a challenge. Offensively, that was not a challenge. They can shoot. They can make the basket. The ball will indeed go it'll go in the hoop for sure. They're not going to stop too many people. But they showed up enough defensively. They got out in front. Second quarter was phenomenal. And they held that lead. Now, the ball isn't going to fall every night. And I'm not saying that, here we go, if they play, I'm definitely not saying if they play like that, they're going to always win. That's not at all what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that game against the Charlotte Hornets last night showed us the potential of the Washington Wizards. I said, oh, there it is. Because I was waiting on it. Because the leadership team is very good. Very good. But we all know these things take time. If you really look at the coaching staff that they brought in, you pay attention to the point that I've been sharing with you all season long so far. Pay attention. They're focused on player development. So we really want to see the changes in the players and how they're building together, the camaraderie, how their game is changing. Let's see how they progress. Let's see how things differ. I said, oh, that game is a potential blueprint. Check it out if you haven't already. Trust me on this one. Might not be so bad. Not saying, put all your money on them, but I am saying it might not be so bad. Now, a lot of people thought it was miserable to watch. I was actually enjoying myself watching the Wizards, because you already have to know where they are. You have to know they're in rebuild. They're not going to be tough against the Boston Celtics. They're not going to beat the Philadelphia 76ers. You have to already set your expectations to know what you are watching. What we are watching is the initial phases of a rebuild, focus on the player development piece, and I promise you'll have a lot more fun watching the game if you're looking to have fun. I've enjoyed myself, actually. I'm just trying to write a few articles, but I'm like, okay, because I can already see the difference in the players. I'm already seeing where some of the player development is already starting to kick in. The season is long. We're still waiting and we're still seeing. But enjoy the ride. Don't be so down on the Wizards. Don't be so down on them, y'all. The rest of the way for this episode is Washington Commanders. Who wants to talk about the Commanders? Does anybody? Don't all jump at once. So, first things first. Let me go into the press conference from, what day is it? Thursday. Yesterday, I asked Coach Rivera a couple of questions, because these are a couple of things that I want to know based on Sunday's win against the New England Patriots. Check it out here.
Coach, Tressaway spoke to us a bit in the locker room, and I see you smiling. He won NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, so this is the second honor for the special teams this season. What can you say about that group and what you see them building as a unit?
It's been happening over the last couple of years. Last year, Jeremy, becomes the Pro Bowl player and then gets voted All-Pro Special Teams Player. And to me, that's one of the areas that is very positive as far as growth is concerned. I got the right kind of guys out there doing it. I think Nate Castor has done a terrific job. I think him and Ben make a terrific team of position coaches for us as far as special teams are concerned. And Tress is just the ultimate pro. He really is. He's one of the captains and doing a great job of leading that group of guys. What it does say about Tress winning the award, one of the things that was really cool about it was we had 5 punts that were down inside the 20. or that ended up inside the 20. And a lot of it had to do with not just him kicking the ball, but the guys that are covering. Everything from what goes on with Cheeseman at the long snapping position, and Burgess coming in and replacing Jeremy, and being able to help hold down the fort. And then our gunners, the way those guys are playing, and breaking free and getting down. I mean, that whole unit has done a nice, solid job for us as far as special teams is concerned. There are a couple other bright spots, too, as far as special teams was concerned. We had 3 punt returns over 10 yards. Anytime you can do that, that means that's 10 yards less that the offense has to gain before they're in scoring position. We opened up with a 37-yard kickoff return by Antonio. Again, that's one less first down you have to get if we had downed it and taken it at the 25. So there's been a lot of positive growth, and you see that. And when you start seeing a lot of your young picks, your young draft picks playing well on special teams, that's usually a good indicator that given the opportunity to play regularly at a position, bodes well. So there's a lot of positives to take from that.
And actually, to follow up on what you just mentioned, Chris Rodriguez had a big tackle for you all on Sunday. Can you say a bit more about his growth and how you think he's doing so far?
Chris has done a solid job. He really has. And whenever he's gotten an opportunity to come in and run, he has run the ball pretty well for us. And, it's just as you watch it with what's going on with Antonio and B-Rob, I think both those guys are finding their stride now within this offense. Last week was a good week for both those backs. And so it just hasn't really given Chris the opportunity to play running back as much as I think he would like to, and we would like to see a little bit more from him if he gets the opportunity. But watching him on special teams and how he's growing, that's been really good. It's been a cool thing to see that he's taking every opportunity he can and to give his best. So that's been really good as well.
You all, I posted that I had something I wanted to share. I said I had a one-on-one conversation with Coach Ron Rivera, and Coach knows that I'm going to share this. I felt like it was important to ask him, and I didn't think it was important. I just didn't want to do it publicly, necessarily on a press conference. I had more questions about the Montez Sweat, Chase Young trades, but probably not the questions that you thought I wanted to know. If you watched the show last week, love button, fire emoji if you watched my show last week when the trades were going down. All week long, I had a theme of, for the Monday show, the day before the trade deadline, it was, how is the locker room going to react? What's going to happen if and when somebody or some persons get traded? The reaction show, we talked about it. Then came back Thursday. I shared with you all what was happening, the vibe in the locker room. So I wanted to ask Coach Rivera from his, for him, starting at the top of the week. I said, how difficult was last week for you? And he told me that it was tough. He said it was tough. He said, Candi, that was hard. This was hard. I knew what, and this is exactly what he said. He said, and I knew what trading those guys would do to the locker room. It was, they're the connection in the locker room. They're the life of the locker room. It was going to be hard for me to do anyway. This is Coach Rivera. He said, but, having to explain the why, because of course it is, could be taken as you're giving up on the season. He said, which we are not. He said, and I'm telling you, we are not giving up on the season. And he said, having to explain this is rooted in opportunities for the young guys. And he told the story that he told in his presser, which was, in Carolina, something similar happened and we ended up going to still making the playoffs, and it's an opportunity for the young guys. And he said all of those things. But I asked him, he just kept reiterating how tough it was for him as a coach and having to brace for the impact in the locker room because people had questions, wanted to know, and it was just really iterating and telling the story of this is going to provide opportunities for young guys to be able to step up and be able to contribute. And we're still plugging away, not giving up on the season. I asked him what he saw in the locker room. I know what I saw, and I know what I saw at practice and the pieces that were to attend. Media is able to attend, but what did you see? And he said, "Oh, it was bad. It was tough." He said Wednesday was just down the tubes. Like Wednesday was just down the tubes. You know, it was not a good vibe. You know, Thursday was a little bit better. And then each day gets better. The win helped. And then he went back to just understanding that there were going to be hurt feelings across the board, and people were going to have to talk about it as a team. They were going to have to talk about it. He knew that, and that hurt him, and it hurts. It's hard. It's tough. So he was aware, and that's what I was seeking. And I told him that I was seeking, okay, are you aware of did you realize what it was going to do when you did it? Not that it was going to impact either way, but just the awareness of this is going to have a strong emotional component to it. And how did you not necessarily rectify it, because it's not necessarily about solutioning it, because hurt feelings are hurt feelings, right? Confusion is confusion. But what did you do to further just getting through the tough spot? It was a tough spot. How do you get through it? And he reiterated the conversations that were had about opportunities and understanding and just hearing people out and all of those things, understanding that the practices were hard, meetings were hard, the whole week was hard. And it was just really helpful to get a win. It was helpful to get a win. It's definitely changed the vibe. It's put the vibe up a notch. And so we talked about that. And then I said, and then you made the decision to give the players 2 days off. I said, what led to that decision then? So you got a tough week, everything about it is tough. You win on Sunday, you make the decision to give the team 2 days off. And he said, well, no, I had already made that decision. So that decision was not made as a result of the win. He said, that is something that I thought was going to need to happen, planning going into the week. It's at the midseason. I knew it was going to be a tough week because of the trades, and it didn't have anything to do with the win. I had already planned to give the team 2 days off because it was needed, it was necessary, and I could see it and across the board. And I just thought everybody needed a break. This is really tough, and we had to take 2 days. That was my decision, and that's what I wanted to do. The win helped, but we were going to take those 2 days anyway. So you all, I wanted to share that with this audience. I wanted to share that with you all because I thought it was important. And because I'm big on leadership and leadership talk and coaching and all of those things, I really just wanted to know from a leadership perspective where he was. Where are you? Where are you? You all right? You feel okay? How difficult was it? Was it easy for you to do? You just ripped the Band-Aid off, or did you get into the emotions of it a bit? And we had a great conversation, and it was I was glad to have it. I didn't want it to linger, and if I had an opportunity to ask, I wanted to ask because I told you all I've been around the team. I'm around. And I knew this is not going to go well, but what do you do? How do you react? What do you do? How do you do? I mean, leadership is not easy. It's hard. And sometimes you have to make a hard decision that people are not going to like. It's going to be hard, but him is a human, as a coach, as a leader of that team. I thought that it was important. And you all know that was a recurring thing for me last week that I was critical on. I want to know what's being done. I want to know if people are having conversations, and they did, and they were aware, and I got my questions answered. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, well, we're just going business as usual. It was not that at all. And he definitely went into some specifics there as well in terms of just, you know, conversations and steps and all of that, because you have to address it. They weren't going to not address it. So it was addressed internally. And I will say I've been out there all week now. So the weeks is trying to go along on, and the mood is coming back up. The mood is trending back upwards. You know, you're not going to replace, you're not going to, you know, replace those two. You know, whether it be on the field or in the locker room, you're not going to replace those two personalities, but the mood is trending upwards for sure. So I hope that information was helpful. Shout out to CWall Chaplain, NASDAQ Merrick. I saw your comment on the chat and acknowledged that. I'm glad that you found that insight helpful. It was helpful to me as a journalist. It's helpful for me in terms of how I'm tracking in the storylines that I track when I'm there and what I'm paying attention to. And so I hope that was helpful to all of you as well. So you all, next up, the Seattle Seahawks. Let's get right on into it, you all. Bold predictions. This is something we have not done in a while. And the reason why we have not done this in a while is because the Commanders we've been losing, and we've had a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of unexpected activity that have gone on this season. So if you have any bold predictions before we close out, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Man, that already said a win. That's a bold prediction. I think I shared this with you all on Monday, but this is another very important point. I've probably been out there so much this week because sometimes I'm out there multiple days, and other weeks, depending on if they're home or if I'm traveling, I may go out there a couple times, and I know I'm going to see them when I, go on the road and when we're home. I am not traveling to Seattle this weekend, so I will not be there. I know the stadium is gorgeous, and I actually love Seattle. A lot of people do not like Seattle. I'm not one of those people. I absolutely love Seattle. I think it's beautiful. So I will not be there. But I'll still be all in the know, and I will. My plan is to be out there on Fridays. I typically, when I travel, I don't go out to the park on Fridays, but I may be out there tomorrow since I'm not traveling. So we'll see what happens. We shall see what happens. It'll be interesting, even for me watching from home. And it'll be my bold prediction: mistake-free football. Will it happen? Who knows? All right, you all. Thank you for hanging out again. The weekly DMV sports update from the Coaching from the Couch series. I'm your host, CWall. This is a live Bowie television recording. Do you all follow Bowie TV as well on YouTube? BCMC, Maryland TV, or TV. If you do all of that, trust me, it'll come up. All of the content that you want to see on the Washington Commanders. And if you have any Baltimore Ravens loving family and friends, get them on the YouTube subscribers on there as well. Amazing Baltimore Ravens content, all of the HBCU athletics content as well, with a focus on Bowie State and Morgan State. That's all on there. We have all types of shows, you name it. Yoga, we had candidate forums, entrepreneurship, finances, you name it. It's all there, and more to come as well. So you all, thank you so much for hanging out. I'm going to talk to you guys again soon.